All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Comics Della Morte, episode 80, Raze with Sam Willis. How you doing, sir?
Yes, pretty good. How you guys doing?
Awesome.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Doing a double feature this week.
That's awesome.
I gotta say, Ronnie, if we ran just the intro on like a 4-hour loop, it might be this scariest thing on YouTube. I love it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I've seen a lot of intros to a lot of interview shows, and that might be one of my favorites, to be quite honest.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. It's a horror show. You got to have that creepy vibe to it.
Absolutely.
It's very pleasantly off-putting, like we are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I dig it.
So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, like, what started you to making comics from just like being a fan of comics.
Yeah, so first off, my name's Sam Willis. I'm from Worcester, Massachusetts. I am the co-writer and, kind of all the behind-the-scenes marketing for Raze Comics. What kind of got us into the motivation for Raze was we were always huge fan of the zombie genre, but we wanted to do something that was a little bit different and that came off a little bit different. Obviously, I love horror movies and I love the horror genre, but it was always that thing where it's like zombies were this corny idea or something that was so unrealistic. So we kind of wanted to put some realism into the genre and be like, no, this could actually happen, and we're going to explain how it would. And that's kind of how you take off with or how we take off with these books.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's got a 28 days later flavor to it in a lot of spots. Which
28 days later.
I don't know. I think I think that what's the other movie? The Crazies. I think that those.
That's
awesome.
That's one thing that I think is no one talks about. That was actually the inspiration for the infected design. We saw that. They're like, oh, this design is so cool, and then we tried to kind of bring it into a comic book medium. Because obviously,
you guys nailed it. Yeah. It just gives it lends it a little bit more realism, because you may not see somebody dragging their feet, with their arm hanging off, but we do remember in Florida, some guy on bath salts tried to eat somebody's face. Now it's we're getting to a little bit more of the realistic side, and I grew up a zombie in a sense. And so once you can cross over into that, how can you ground this just a tiny bit to bring people in? And I think that you nailed it. And
thank you.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent so early, but good grief, we talk about on this show, we talk about The Thing a lot because it's definitely a go-to horror inspiration for us. And, I'm a huge John Carpenter fan.
How you doing, Mike?
You get these big, hey, what's up, Mike?
What's going on, Mike?
Big, vast areas like Antarctica where you can't get out and it just builds tension. Same thing with Alien. And I feel like starting your story on a bridge kind of gave you that same feeling. Yes, you're out in public, but you're trapped. And you're on a bridge. Yeah. It just lends that one more thing to the world to invest folks in the story. So well played. I've really dug what I've read so far. So keep them coming, man.
Oh, we're gonna keep them coming.
Yeah.
So
back to Kickstarter for sure.
Yeah. So you did the writing. So your co-host, does he do the artwork or does he do the writing as well?
Yeah, so that's kind of a loaded question. So it's kind of a complicated history. So to kind of bring you back, issue 1, if you actually read issue 1 and you go before you even start the issue, there's a whole almost a credits page for all the artists that worked on it. So my co-creator Trey, he actually he's a co-writer and he did the first half of issue 1. And he was kind of learning how to he doesn't have a huge drawing background, but he kind of just placed himself into the comic book, drawing aspect of it. And
does he have a social media? Because I tried to find him, and I couldn't find him on Instagram.
He does. He's just very invisible on social media.
Okay.
But I can definitely give you guys a social media at the end of it if you guys want to
so I could add
him.
Yeah, I want to add in the description.
But yeah, the first issue he did the first half, and then we kind of hired a few artists to come on and finish off the first issue. And one of the artists we hired for the end of issue 1 actually did issues 2 through 4. And then Trey came in and he did all the inking and shading, and he gave it those like really like issue 4, all the shading for the like daytime and whatnot. Mm-hmm. That was his idea to kind of go in and kind of do his thing on that end. And now issue 5, which we are kickstarting, he is the artist for the whole issue. So he's going to be the artist moving forward with this project.
That's something that's like so inspiring to me, because I've got a few projects. Like I do illustrate and I draw and I write. I want to write, and talking to folks like you kind of gives me the gumption to just say, get started, figure out how to get an artist if that's what you want to do, and then go for it. And then before you know it, you guys are like 5 issues in to a successful Kickstarter. Like, you guys are getting close to the finish line on this one. I gotta feel like you're gonna make it.
Yeah, we're hoping we do.
You know, so,
we're crossing our fingers.
Y'all, watch this. Go log on to.
You definitely have a fan base right now.
Yeah, we're trying to build it up too. You know, I think it was always about like we want to connect with our fans and really kind of. I mean, our goal ultimately is to kind of break down that invisible wall and try to connect with our fans wherever we can. And, you know, thing we don't talk about enough is like issue 1, we had a contest on our social medias where we actually put someone in our comic, you know, and that's, I think, a reoccurring thing we want to do. Right now in the storyline, we can't really put anybody in. But once we get into a part in the story where we can again, that's something that I think we're going to revisit and obviously get fans excited about.
Oh yeah, especially a fan who loves horror. That hey, I'll do you into a zombie or being killed. People go for that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, we're on the ground level with indie comics of something that's like, we don't need, like, I still have dreams of like maybe one day getting to tell my identity crisis for DC or for a Marvel, but there's not a limit to success, and that's not a marker to success anymore. And I feel like it's important to support grassroots. I feel like it's important to support people who are putting it all together and doing it, and self-publishing. It doesn't just mean slapping something together so that you can say you published a comic. It's the truth. Like, Raze is this is a comic that I would be excited to see at the store. And because definitely. We were talking last night with our guests, we were talking to Gio Braun, and we were talking about, I think it was Ronnie had mentioned how cool it was to like go to the video store and pick a movie just based on the cover, just based on the cover that you see. Comics are one of the few things that you can do that with anymore. You know, even back in like the music days, like a cool CD cover didn't mean anything about what was inside.
Yes.
But a cool comic cover, it can deliver, you know what I mean? And like a cool like VHS cover back in the day, those could deliver. And so this is, like even just like your really logo cover would be something that would catch my eye enough to say, you know what? Like, this is something I would, because this is what I always go for when I go to the comic book store. Is it's always something that just catches my eye from the cover, and you just kind of trust the universe, like you trust the comic book guys that they're gonna deliver. And this book definitely delivered. Like 3 pages into the first issue, I'm like, all right, this will be a fun ride to go on for.
Yeah, definitely.
Go support this Kickstarter, guys. It's valid. It's definitely valid.
I was going to say
really
too,
like the artwork and the panels that you broke up on this page. Really nice work.
I will say, because we talked about inspirations a little bit, is one of the big inspirations, because we're huge gamers. When we were growing up, we were like, always playing video games, and the biggest inspiration, and hopefully people see it, is kind of a nod to them, is Left 4 Dead.
Yep.
That was
love
kind
that game.
And that
games
panel
that you
right
could
there
put together as a family.
Yes, yes. That panel that you just showed, that was actually designed off of the hospital in Left 4 Dead 1, and that's kind of like
yes, the hospital scene. Yeah.
Yes, so that was something we kind of designed for that panel. And we do all these things that we kind of throw a nod to them because that's really what got us started with this project.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I don't know, like this is. I get giddy talking to storytellers, and it's like I'm on overload now because I just got off work, but we just did Comics de la Muerte last night. We had an awesome guest, and now it's like again, like Ronnie will probably never do 2 videos in a row with me again because I get too giddy.
But like you said, designing the zombies, did you know how you wanted to make them look? Because each like with each movie, zombies are designed differently. Like to make them more grotesque or make them look more human-like?
Yeah, so I mean, it always came down to this question of, and it's kind of why we started the story, is like in a zombie genre, you have the human element and you have the zombie element. And we wanted to tell something that was right in that middle part. And that's kind of where the infected came in. And, you know, it's like it hits on so many notions because it's like there's a person behind there. And you can't really talk to them. You can't really negotiate. Right. They're just trying to like beat the crap out of you.
Right.
And so it's always like this. It's like this physical element, and then it's like this psychological element. Like, oh my God, do I have to kill like a person? Because they're just, you know, they're still in there somewhere, and you want to believe that, but they're also trying to literally come at your throat and try to just, you know, end your life. So it's like. There was always this design that me and Trey talked about where we always wanted that human element because I think with zombies is like it gets more and more on, I would say, the monster scale of things where, you know, like their jaws falling off or their arm falls off. So we always wanted that human element because at the end of the day, like you take these infected away, we're still going to have that human story. And we still wanted that human element with the infected too, you know what I mean? But we wanted to make it scary. We wanted to make it terrifying. And that's what we tried to do in these few issues that we put out.
That's awesome.
Mission accomplished. You know,
really,
like,
really great work.
With zombies, I always in the older stuff, like it's always fun when it's a bunch of normal zombies. But whenever like the 7-foot zombie shows up, I'm always like, okay, like it's not it loses something. You know what I mean? Like, because you're right. Like you can go monster or you can go human. This is a dead human being that you might have hung out with 2 days ago. Now they're trying to eat you. That's the story. Or like, how long do you let somebody go once they turn? Before you really have to do something about it. Those are the good zombie stories. That's when I used to enjoy Walking Dead. That was the fun stuff that I liked. You know, how long can this person get bit and have a fever before we have to figure out what to do? And do we figure out what to do now, or because we know them, do we like let this ride out? Because you're not gonna find a cure because you're trying to stay alive. Like that's your main goal. So no. I don't want you to spoil your whole book because I could definitely talk about it all day long.
It's out to the public. Whatever you guys want to talk about, you shoot my way.
Well,
okay.
Like he said with the beginning of the book, where the main characters are stuck on a bus, like that's awesome, and it kind of gives me like those same vibes, like I Am Legend. Where literally they're stuck in the car and you got all these zombies coming around and, you know, these people don't know what's happening. All they see is other people attacking people.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really great thing, especially, you know, if you could have like drama and terror in the beginning of the comic or a movie, it's going to automatically bring the people in because like with public speaking, when you're giving a message, you have to have that beginning of the message be very powerful and grab the readers' attention or audience, or they're just going to be completely lost.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's the thing. That's the thing. Me and Trey talked about is like when we talked about issue 1, we're like, we wanted to set you off with this world. Like we always hate the conversation of, hey, you gotta wait till a certain part till it gets good, and we're like, no. Issue 1, come out the gate. You know,
make it good now.
Make it good right as soon as you come out the gate.
Yep, that's where it's at. No, I was gonna say, like Ronnie was saying, how you have to have like a compelling introduction. I was gonna say, you mean saying good morning? Oh no! I didn't hear you guys. Good morning. That doesn't work.
No, nothing like that.
That doesn't work for what we do. No, that's the quickest way to disengage me, especially if it's really the morning. Like, no,
yeah.
Let me wake up a little bit. I heard you say good morning.
But yeah, so with that, oh, you were gonna say something, Jason?
Nope, I wasn't.
All right,
I'm good.
So with the zombies books, do you know how much more of a story you really want to tell with that?
Yeah. So okay. So little backstory. Me and Trey met in middle school, so we've been planning this story since middle school. So we've been doing this.
Love it.
We've been writing this story for about 15 years. And it took us a while to get to the comic book medium. But what I can say is everything that we have out right now is just merely the prologue. We have a lot of story we want to tell.
Yep.
And I can't say exactly how an issue count right now because I honestly don't know. Right. But we do have the next 5 years planned out.
Awesome.
So we have a lot of content we want to put out, and we have a lot of issues we want people to come into and like really have fun, really get scared, and really get invested with these characters. And that, I think, is the whole goal of this series.
That's cool.
So when you guys started writing it, was it, I know you said it took you a while to find like where you were going to be in the comic book medium, but did you know that this was going to be a comic book? Did you guys see it as a movie?
Yeah, we saw it as a video game. Yeah, so
nice.
It was originally as a video game. So
see, you're their first. I know, like the people that we've had on the past, like a lot of them's like, yeah, I was planning to write this horror comic as a screenplay, and then it turned into more of a comic than a screenplay. So yeah, I could definitely see like video game aspects because you said like the Left 4 Dead, it had that vibe to it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was always too, like, Left 4 Dead had 4. We have 8 characters, so it was like, yeah, let's do 4 times 2. And then we brought it to a comic medium, like, yeah, doing 8 characters, that's not a good idea. That's a lot of characters.
Sometimes you don't need it to be one louder. Exactly.
Yeah.
But with, like, horror comics, what's so great is that, like, the guests we had on yesterday, like, me and, like, I know I do it too, where, like, I have, like, a big idea how I want my horror episode to go, but I do the artwork first and then I do the speech bubbles because most of horror is such fast action pace, especially when it gets to like the jump scares and everything. You don't have to write a lot of dialogue just in between the whole like conflict of what you're trying to run away from.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing, like when we write these issues, it's like now we're doing it where we're kind of writing, I think, the dialogue first because we honestly want to tell this story through these issues. And we have a lot of character moments, so it's easier to write that dialogue, but it is a lot of like, you know, sound effects and throwing in roars and all these things that we want to throw in and trying to make it feel dynamic too. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like, our goal is every time we go through an issue is like there's just one page that you look at and you're like, man, that's awesome. And that's what we try to do with each issue that we kind of progress through, you know?
Yeah, I love writing my scripts first. I can nail down everything because I'm slower on the visuals, but if I give myself a good enough roadmap, then I don't have to wonder too hard once I really get into my visuals. Like I can read what I wrote and I know my perspective. I know what camera is going to pay off this the best. So gotcha. I do like writing my scripts first. And then I don't really, in all honesty, like I don't really care what I cover up when I'm putting it with the artwork. I would rather make sure that the words are exactly what I want. I would rather make sure that if somebody has something to say and it's going to take up a chunk of a panel, you know, maybe it goes over the hand, you know, like I'm good with that, you know, so, but no, I always have to write first because I feel like I get a better finished product because I'm giving 100% to my writing, which is that's where the story lives for me.
So with these characters, like
you don't have to amuse me, Ronnie. Like I'm joking.
Yeah. So with these characters, like what came first, the zombie concept, or did you like, okay, this is what I want this character to be. I want this character to be like, I want these characters to actually have like a deep backstory. Did you really sit down and make the survivors like the main focus on how we're going to write this story?
Yeah, so I mean, it was always kind of like, so when we came up with these ideas for the survivors, it was kind of always like, okay, let's do something that no one's ever done before. Let's introduce like a handful of characters. And the way I think our story goes for these characters, because the characters came first and they all kind of sounded the same at the beginning, so it was kind of trying to figure out their identity as we went through this process. But it's funny because we had to learn very quickly that we can't always put all of these characters in all these issues as far as having the spotlight. So the way we kind of write our story is what character demands this part of the story. Like what character is going to benefit / what's it like, what kind of loss could they go through, what kind of struggle, maybe what kind of resolution. And then that way kind of piggybacking off of that and be like, okay, this person has this conflict. That's their best friend, so how would they feel? And it's kind of like this ripple effect. And something we did in issue 4, kind of last minute, we kind of brought up this idea, and then everyone kind of like segued in a different direction where it was able to kind of push their stories now forward because of that reaction.
That's cool.
Yeah. Everything won't be a character defining moment for everybody, but if you got one thing, nugget that can connect an environment to a character, that's pretty cool. There's always levels, man. Like I love it because there's always something that somebody else says that makes it make sense.
Yeah, because like each survivor is going to have like a skill that the other one's not going to be able to provide. Like if you're a person who knows how to like do construction or carpentry, you're going to be better at that than like shooting a gun or whatever. So, you know, you got to make each survivor shine at a certain moment.
Exactly. And it's like the craziest thing about this is like, these are a bunch of high schoolers. Like these aren't like veteran survivors. Like they don't know much besides they just crashed into a car and there's bloodthirsty infected trying to kill you.
They can't run away.
Yeah, like run away.
It works so well, you know, because it's like one of those stories where it's a lot more exciting because when you look at like a lot of comics and things or movies in general, for whatever reason, audiences are more attracted to like teenagers and kids surviving through a zombie apocalypse or, you know, with Stranger Things, just because I don't know, it relates to people, and in a way like kids dreaming, hanging out at the school playground, acting like they're fighting against whatever. And look at Stephen King. He does it really well with a bunch of kids. So
absolutely. I mean, it's too like you get this moment where like they don't know really anything, so it gives them like a chance to grow and like evolve and adapt into the person they might become, you know. And that's where that kind of character arc comes in, where you're like, okay, they started, you know, not knowing anything, and we get to a certain point, okay, they can fire a gun, they can do this, they can, you know, interact with a certain storyline where they maybe learn something. And that's kind of like why we did it, you know, them being so young.
That's awesome. So also let's see. with the characters as well, like, were you planning to, how to put this, like, do they, like, the characters, do they kind of did you write it, did you have it like, okay, this person I want to draw from this person in my life that kind of reminds me of a character that I would put in my comic? Because a lot of people write characters that kind of remind like their family or friends and stuff like that. Or was it just on a whim, on the top of my head, I'm just going to make a random person?
Yeah, so I mean, it was definitely a lot of inspiration. There's two characters off the top of my head that are actually based off of real people.
Okay.
Not really their personalities, but the way they look and sometimes how they carry themselves. Like, what we're coining as the biggest a-hole in our comic, Ian. He's actually based off of my stepbrother, and he's not really like that in real life, but when we'd go on like Xbox Live and then he would be all cocky and confident, he kind of brought out that Ian persona. Nice. And that's kind of what we wrote. Like we wrote that and they're like, okay, he's egotistical. Where can we go with this? And then another character, which is Ricky. He's actually based off of a person I met in middle school and who I was like really close friends with, and just the way he acted, I was kind of always drawn to. So it was, I would say there's some inspiration in some of these characters, and it's these other characters like, yeah, we should just do this, and then we're like, okay, let's do this, and then they kind of just evolve over the time that we've spent with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Jason, you have anything more to ask about?
I'm trying, Ronnie. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. No, I was just gonna say, like, there's something about like New England creators. I feel like we all kind of like radiate those little bits and pieces of like Stephen King character development. Like, we all get invested because these characters become so relatable. Like, I don't even realize that I do it. This is why it's not like math, because there are things that I do that I love talking to other creators, because I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm on the right path because other people do this same thing. Like, there's so many characters who are like nuggets of people that I come across at work, or just instances that I've had running into people, whether it be at church, work, whatever. And so we all connect because we all know these little pieces of people. That's what makes a comic like Raze stand out, because it is nonstop. Like, it could easily just be nonstop, gratuitous, and it would be awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, like a monster truck rally, but with zombies. But at the same time, if I can turn the page and I can like come down just a little bit and read about these characters and like find out like what makes them tick, or why they were where they are. Mm-hmm. Now, when the action ramps back up, it does get your blood pumping a little bit more, because now, like, you don't want the guy that you just kind of shared a moment with to be the person who gets it next.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, no. Raze has 5 days left, right? Is it 5 days?
5 days. 5 days.
Yeah, the Kickstarter's in the description notes.
5 days.
Link. Yeah, man. Like, pick it up. It's a really good, good series.
$90 away. So that's 9 people doing $10, or 2 people doing $45. That's not too bad. Like, that's what we want.
We're close.
I don't even know what yeah, like, let's see what happens, man. Like, support good projects. And this is a good, and this is no bullshit, man. Like, this is a good project. I can't wait to read the whole shebang. Like, I'm sure I'll have all kinds of questions, but
oh yeah. And you can always reach out to me. I'm always to have a panel, okay?
All right. That's awesome, man. Great. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good book, and it's a fresh take on zombies. And we just talked to another creator, Laurie Calcaterra, that did Path of Pale Rider not too long ago.
Amazing book.
And I remember
saying, get her on after everybody gets their copies.
Mm-hmm. I remember saying, like, wow, like, what a fresh take on the zombie genre. But now, like, less than 2 months later, I'm saying again, what a fresh take on the zombies genre. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always about like, you have to do things different, especially in a genre that's been, has so many stories. Like if you watch a war movie, everyone's seen like 100 war movies. You really got to do something different. That's going to be like, yeah, this war movie looks amazing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a hard thing to do. It's not easy, but I think if you have, I think that I personally, just me speaking, the right team, because I have, our team is excellent. And, if you have the right team and you're super passionate and you have the right story, I honestly think the sky is the limit. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
Like, sure. And that's kind of what we're trying to do.
2 minds are better than one.
Exactly.
Believing that you have something special, even if it's a saturated field, if you believe you have something special, a lot of times you do. It just takes time to like cultivate it a little bit. Yeah. It just takes a little bit of time, but it's very easy to give up on it. Like when you see, or for me anyway, to have an idea and then to read something and say, oh, that's very similar to what I was doing. But it's not, because they didn't write it, because I didn't, because they wrote it. I didn't write it. So what else was resonating with me? Because that just to me says now that, again, I'm going in the right path. Like the thought is in the universal field, right? So now it's just a matter of like finding your chords on that string. So no, I love it. I love it when people are up to the challenge to something that we might feel like has been done a lot and deliver on it. And
yes,
that's what counts.
Hopefully we did.
Oh yeah, you have. Trust me.
I'm not too concerned. I'm definitely not concerned about it.
I mean, Jason, he's still trying to catch up on a lot of horror movies, but I'm like a horror fanatic, and I've seen like probably every single zombie horror movie under the sun. So I could definitely tell you it's a fresh story.
Beautiful. That's what we love to hear. And I will say, like, for anyone who's trying to get in the industry, like, people don't know, but like issue 1 took 3 tries. Like we did issue 1 the first time, and like we read it and we're like, wow, this is hot garbage. We cannot put this out to the public. We got to throw it away. And we started over, and then our artist left halfway through, and then issue 1 you see now is our 3rd attempt. Which it just took us a lot of time to get there, but like just don't give up. It's gonna happen. It takes time, just like anything. If you give up, you're never gonna be able to see the product. You're never gonna see what you could have done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To anyone aspiring to do comics or do anything really, you can do that in I think any medium you're trying to do.
Yeah. You gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet, so definitely.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, you got to eat a few brains to make a zombie movie.
So now we're in the half-hour mark. So now we want to get more into like the fun of being a fan of horror. So as a kid, what drew you to horror and want to actually like pursue a career in it with the comics? Because you could have gone with any other route of a comic book.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of got like, I wouldn't say thrown in my lap, but it was just thrown into my life. So like when I was a really young kid, I watched horror movies when I probably shouldn't have. I grew up with 4 brothers, so we had the classic Nightmare on Elm Street, like all of them, like 1 through 6. And we kind of like, when our parents weren't looking, we all kind of just went into one room, put it on the TV, and someone would always stand by the TV. So if they came in, someone's pressing the power button and turning it off and just acting all cool. So that kind of threw me into the horror genre very, very early in my life. As far as comics go, I mean, once again, thrown in very early. Like my first, I would say, comic book was a Avengers coloring book. And I would just like color in that when I was very young. And then it was kind of like, I always liked comics, and I always went to like comicvine.com and just looked up like different like superhero characters. And me and my brothers used to go on Photoshop and be like, oh, we want Batman to be a different color. Let's color him in a different color, and just like make like YouTube videos on it. It was just like really embarrassing stuff. But that kind of like drew me to comics a lot with all these different characters, and reading comics obviously as well. And then, I was going to school for video game design, and then I wasn't able to do it. So I'm like, man, I really like this story. What medium can we tell it in? And then we kind of just like, we've been reading comics our entire life. Let's just like do a comic book. And then we just like went down that route, But it's always been kind of a backbone of like me growing up. Like that medium has always been something very close to me. So it was just kind of like, it just made sense at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I'm really happy because not much so much with the mainstream, but so much of indie comics that are coming out are a lot of horror comics, and I'm happy to see that, because I always say that we have the comics code for a reason because of horror comics. It wasn't Batman or any of those that made it where, okay, you got to restrict where you can't show violence. It was horror comics that started the whole thing. And it's great to see that, that love of that genre to come back in comics, because for a while it was just saturated with superheroes all around.
Absolutely. I mean, too, you even have like DC, like certain comic books from DC have horror elements. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, it's always been there. And, that's why, like, the funnest thing about that is like, horror is like, it's the main component, but you can go in any direction with that. Like, it's not limited to just horror. You know what I mean? Like it's you can have action, you can have drama, you can have mystery. Like they all can, they can all blend into each other if it's done right. Yeah,
because horror, as I always say it, horror has subgenres. You have the sci-fi horror, you have the dark fantasy, you have the typical slasher, even romance you could have in a story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but just to piggyback off what you were saying about horror elements in like DC, like a standard DC book, if you took Batman out of any book and you just left the bad guys that were running into Batman, it's just horror faces.
Yes,
it's the same thing. It's I draw it a bajillion times. It's the eyes, like it's great studies for just fear. And like Batman is like his source material is fear, because he's not the tightest wound individual. Like he's just trying to do the right thing like all of us. But no, you gotta have the emotions in a story, and nothing for me captures emotion in a story like horror. It's very rarely the monster in the closet. It's how you got to be in the room with the monster in the closet. That's where the money is. Like every single time.
Yeah, I mean, too, it's like there's a monster in the closet, but like however you deal with that, you're finding things out about these characters that maybe wouldn't come out if they weren't in this certain situation. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, it's almost like this thing you have where you can draw out certain elements that would almost feel natural because you're in such a ridiculous element or scenario where it wouldn't happen on a day-to-day of you just walking by this person. You know what I mean? So it is that opportunity to draw a lot of stuff out that you wouldn't normally see.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
Processing, like seeing somebody have to, like in Walking Dead, like how you have to smash a head to save your own life. That's not your thought process on a daily basis. And so when you see somebody do that to save you, and you know that you're going to have to do that at some point, that's the world changing. Like that's where the world changes. Totally.
Absolutely.
For sure. And now go ahead.
I was gonna say, what would you say your favorite horror video game is?
Ooh, oh, I know, I know this. I know. Well, actually, it might be 2, and I only say this one, and I think a lot of people either don't remember this game at all or haven't heard of it. Is one of my favorite horror video games of all time. Is Clock Tower.
Yes, Scissor Man.
Oh,
yeah, Scissor Man.
Yeah, I remember that game.
You in a mansion. He pops out of a picture frame, which in itself is genius. One of the coolest ideas ever. And it was like, I don't know, there was this human element to it too. So I mean, it was really scary.
The second game was really good too.
Yep, that one was good too. Like both of them are just really scary, and I was really young at the time, so the graphics don't really hold up now.
Oh yeah, original PlayStation, yeah.
I would say the second one though too is Outlast. I don't know if you guys have played that game yet.
Yes, Outlast is amazing. I haven't played that. Me and my wife played that.
It's terrifying. It's like the scariest thing about this game, for me at least, is the sounds, the soundtrack. Like when you're like, they have it where if you're going in a room and there's glass on the floor, you could hear like the person stepping over the glass, and it just the way the sounds work in that, it terrifies me. Because it's just it's a bigger level to the horror element. Like when you can almost have 3D sound when you're going through these areas or being chased, it's so
you're basically
bad.
in an insane asylum running away from different crazy people.
Yes. And you only have a camera. You don't have a weapon.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, you just have a camera. So when you go in these rooms, they're really dark. You put on the night vision so you can see certain things.
And the batteries slowly die out.
Yeah, and it dies out, so you got to find batteries, because if you don't have batteries, you can't even see in the dark. It's terrifying.
What about you, Ronnie? You got a favorite? We never talk about horror video games. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, it's unlocked the level. I love it.
Definitely Clock Tower, because like that was like one of the best video games I like. Just because I could imagine like the sound, like music that plays when he appears. And then just hearing the sound of the giant scissors making that slicing noise.
Yeah, it's like the clanging noise when he's like he's pulling up and open the scissors. Terrifying.
You know, I loved the original Silent Hill.
Oh,
and the thing that scared me, well, there's a few parts that really scared me, but just when you turn it on and it gives you that warning of disturbing images, I was like, oh shit, like the video game, like it was so scary to me.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, the Resident Evil series are great, but Silent Hill, I definitely love that more because it had more of a deeper horror element.
And it was, the controls were like clunky on purpose. Yeah. And whenever you would get close to like the demons, your radio static would pick up, and there was no music. Oh my gosh. And I wasn't big into horror back then. Like I was really trying to be a good boy. But that in and of itself, like I didn't play any of the other Silent Hill games, and I didn't even finish that game. But that was just one of those scary moments that I just remember, man. Like just like from the beginning where it's like disturbing images. I was like I used to be like a unsolved mysteries fiend, and it was like always like the crawls of the descriptions would scare me as much as anything that they would ever show. And
another horror game, that's action-packed horror game, Doom. Love Doom.
Never played Doom.
Are you talking about of the classic Doom, or are you talking about the new one? Okay.
Classic Doom. Classic Doom.
I was gonna say the new one's more like action-packed.
No, classic Doom. Like also Duke Nukem, classic Duke Nukem. Yeah.
I remember in the first, well, I shouldn't say the first, but Metal Gear Solid that came out for PlayStation. You remember when you had to fight Psycho Mantis, and if you didn't switch your controller and the other controller, he could read your moves?
Yeah.
That was like, I remember playing that and saying, I don't know if this bothers my conscience that I'm playing this, because I feel like he really is reading my mind. And I was like 16 or 17. But like, now I understand, like if I felt like that playing that game, that's mission accomplished, right? You know, like that's exactly what you want to do. Or if you had any other Konami game saved, Psycho Mantis could tell you the title of them from the memory card. That's brilliant. Like that's brilliant, scary stuff. And it was like you didn't expect Metal Gear Solid to get like spooky, but it really did, like in that Psycho Mantis level. So yeah, I just can't not talk about that, that feature in Metal Gear if we're talking about horror in video games, for sure.
I was also going to add, I don't know if you guys played this game. It was on PS3, and it's like, I don't think anyone like knows about it because it was so under the radar. It's called Siren Blood Curse, and it's literally like a Japanese horror game. Like you're in Japan, and they're almost like.
I haven't played it, but I've seen people play it. Really nice.
It's
badass title for sure.
Oh yeah. They just throw you into it. They don't even tell you anything, and you kind of just have to figure it out.
You know what's another good horror game, but it has like that supernatural to it. Is it called Detective, where basically you're a cop that dies and you're a spirit trying to solve like these crimes that are happening, and you find out that you was possessed by this spirit that did where you had to go out and kill a bunch of innocent people.
Oh dang!
But yeah, I think it's called Detective or Spirit, something like that. But it's not that too old of an old game, but it was really fun.
That sounds interesting.
Check that out too.
I already like the premise, and it kind of sounds terrifying.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind finding a good horror game to play. I haven't played a horror game in a while.
I mean, Friday the 13th, the video game was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of Friday the 13th, what's your favorite horror movie and why?
Oh man, there's so many categories though for favorite horror movie because there's so many good ones. Man, favorite horror movie. This is a tough one. So I would say one of my favorite ones, and it's like, I wouldn't say it's like there is a terrifying element to it, but so actually two favorite horror movies. Sorry, I can't pick one, so I'd probably pick the first one.
I looked at Murdered Suspect.
Murdered Suspect.
Yeah,
was that on? That was on Xbox One, right? I believe. Yep. Okay, I know what you're talking about. I didn't play that game yet though, but it looked very interesting.
Yeah, that one. It's definitely a must for anybody who love horror games.
Oh, dang.
But go on to what you're saying.
So, my first one, which I don't know if you guys have ever seen, and it's like a parody movie, but I would say is
Midsummer.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was gonna be my second. That's one of my favorites.
Hereditary is one of my favorite ones because it's so well written and it's crazy, and it just like the foreshadowing and just like doing things really sly in that movie is insane.
Yeah.
And then my second one, which I don't know if you guys have seen, but it's a movie called Grave Encounters, and it came out in like 2007, 2008. So it's literally like it's based off of this like if you've ever watched like these ghost shows where they try to like catch ghosts on camera.
I was gonna say the title totally sounds like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it almost feels like a parody, but the like direction they go is really like cool. So it's like they're in the building, and as you're going through the building, more paranormal stuff is happening, like real paranormal stuff that's happening in the building. And they're trying to escape the building, but the building is changing. They can't leave.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it almost becomes like a circle of hell where they're trying to leave, and each like there's like a group of 5 of them. Each one is almost like getting killed off, and they're trying to escape. And it's just like really cool. There's some horror, there's some humor in there, so it's kind of like it offsets the horror a little bit, but they don't go too overboard with it. And it's it feels real because you're getting like these real reactions from these people who are just trying to leave this building, and it just sets up the scenario where it becomes more and more terrifying of you just stuck in this building, and no matter what you do, you can't leave.
Yeah, that's cool.
I gotta check that one out.
Yeah,
I haven't heard of that one. But no, if you appreciate Midsummer, then we can definitely have dinner together one day. Like yes. I could talk about Midsommar all day long. Definitely one of my favorite horror movies, and like so well lit and beautiful through like the last 85% of the movie, and it's just very unsettling, and that's my kind of horror is unsettling. So yeah, Midsommar. Yeah,
the psychological.
I got a curveball question tonight, Ronnie.
Okay.
Okay, and this is for both of you, because I don't think I've ever talked to you about this either, Ronnie. What's your least favorite of the beloved horror movies? Like, what's one that everybody loves that you're just like, nah?
What's one that I don't like? That's a good question. Oh, I know what mine is. I never liked Paranormal Activity. I don't know if I was like the only one, but like
I never liked it.
I like the first one.
The first one, I don't get me wrong. It's
and
not that
I don't like the Hostel movies. I know we've said that on the show. I'm not a big fan of torture porn.
Yeah, no, that's a little bit too far for me too.
Yeah. And the Human Centipede, I don't know why people like those movies.
Oh no, those are just for like shock factor. Like those are what those movies are strictly for.
This is my microphone for now. I'm only here to talk about Evil Dead if least favorite
I knew you were gonna
beloved horror franchises come up. It's enough. I've had enough. Like, I watched them recently, but I watched them in pretty close succession.
They made a video game that just came out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, man, that movie does not like check any of my boxes. Like, I appreciate it. Like, I would love to have a movie that somebody hated that was as successful as Evil Dead is, because who cares? You know what I mean? But it's just one of those movies like that everybody's like, gotta watch it. And I watched them all, and I felt like Bruce Campbell was like very snivelly in the first one, almost to the point of being unlikable, and it was really hard for me to ever like recover from that. Like, even when he got cool, I'm like, dude, this is not who you were. Like, you're around. He switched schools. You know what I mean? Like, he switched schools, so he was like, okay, now I got a chance to reinvent myself. And it fell kind of flat for old Foggy, I guess. What about you, Ronnie? Do you have
pretty much just, there's not
a non-beloved franchise?
I don't know. Just like I said, it's the Hostel stuff and anything like that I'm not a fan of, that a lot of people aren't.
There was quite a few Hostel movies. I didn't realize it was 3. Were there 3 Hostel movies?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Like, I went and saw the first one at the movies. And I'm like, not only now do I never want to travel out of the country, which is really sad, but number 2, I can't wait for this movie to be over. Like, it was like, okay, you won. You're grosser than I ever expected you to be.
Let's see. Yeah, there's not a movie that people really, really love that around the world, except for the ones I name, that I can really think of a horror movie I'd enjoy.
Yep. You're a horror connoisseur though. Like, you can find something you like about anything in the horror genre, pretty much.
I mean, I grew up watching like 80 horror movies, going to Blockbuster, and a lot of horror movies in the 80s were like direct to video and never like in the theaters.
The Exorcist scared me. Like, I was a pretty heavy into Christian child, and it was, my mom used to always like make sure she specifically forbade me to watch The Exorcist. So it was like a lot of legend built around it. I was in my 20s when I watched it, but I won't watch it again. Like, it scared me enough.
Well, it's
but
also
I can see how.
I was gonna say, it's hard to do. Like, those movies are done so many times. Like, if you go in horror, like a horror section of the movies, like there's a lot of exorcism movies now. And like,
yes.
I will say one that was good though. If you guys, it's like it's something like What Happened to Deborah Walker or something like that. It's something with the name
I've
Deborah
seen that
Walker.
come through a couple of my streams a few times.
That one's pretty scary too, because it's more of a psychological thing, and you're trying to figure out like in the movie what's going on with this person, and it's really not like you really don't understand till like the very end. So it does like almost like a mystery in a sense, but it has like very big horror elements of it. But it is I would say it's up there too as I think a really good horror movie just on its own.
So with the next
I gotta
question,
check them out. I got such a list of movies that everybody tells me I need to watch.
Right.
That I don't know when I'll ever finish them all.
Right. What is your favorite 80s horror slasher and why?
Favorite 80s horror slasher. So I'm a 94 baby. So if I get any of these time dates wrong, just let me know. I did grow up watching
So you're younger than the both of us. So
yeah. Let me think. 80s. Were the Nightmare on Elm Streets ever in the 80s, or did they start in the 90s?
I think the first one was 87, 88.
84.
84.
The first Nightmare on Elm Street was 84. Oh my gosh, I'm so old. Like I remember the commercials. Yeah, I'm pretty old. Yep.
I will say one of them, which I don't know if was in the 80s. I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I love those movies growing up as a kid, and I watched them so many times.
Pretty cool.
But one of my favorite ones were like the Dream Warriors in the series, because like to me it was like it was just like a really cool concept, and like you got enough Freddy movies to know what's going on, so to kind of see like almost them fight back in a way was just always like really just like a cool concept for me. As far as I would say 80s.
It's a shame because it's a shame because they had a Nightmare on Elm Street comic book run, and in one of the comics, this little girl who's probably like maybe 8-9 years old is defeating Freddy, and he can't stop her because her imagination is so big that when Freddy gets ready to kill her, she'll have like a giant teddy bear that turns into a grizzly bear fight him, or a dinosaur. So Freddy's like, I can't kill this kid. So he literally attacked a teenager saying, hey, I won't kill you if you go in the real world and try to kill this little girl.
Oh, dang.
I don't know if it makes me immature or not, but we can't skip over the fact that you just said Freddy gets ready, and like that's pretty good. I don't know. It just caught my attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one is so much scarier than like all the rest of them combined.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the same thing with Gremlins. Like I felt like the first Gremlins was really fun but scary. The second one was just like, look how funny the Gremlins can be. And I don't know, like you lose a lot of like really scary figures because they become so cool that they become likable. Like Freddy was moderately likable by the end of that run. Like it's still kind of funny now.
Well, yeah, because it's awesome how like unlike the other people, like, oh, I'm gonna cut this person's head off, I'm gonna crush their head between this door. No, Freddy, like he takes your worst nightmares and make it reality. Like, Dream Master number 4, the girl's afraid of a cockroach. He turns her into a cockroach and squishes her in a cockroach box. Awesome stuff.
Low down.
I mean, I think it's like more the concept for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like someone coming in your dreams and kind of like, like making them a reality. There's no escape. Like it's like that's why it was like always like all these slasher movies. They like really like back in the day was just like the prime for slasher movies. Like I don't think we've gotten a new like franchise of slasher movies because it's all just like, hey, let's try to remake this and remake that. But no one's like thought outside the box. Like, okay, let's make another slasher movie where they're Jason or they're Michael Myers or they're Leatherface.
Well, they did such a great job with like bringing in Candyman, because that was so different to like, you know, kids
true.
kids in the 90s, that you had any kid who and his friends be in front of a mirror saying Candyman 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I never did that.
I did that. I did that, and then I had a younger sibling and nieces and nephews who did that, and I was waiting for me to hop out of the shower
Scared the
and
crap
scare
out
them.
of them.
Yeah, of course. You know?
I love it.
Yeah.
You know, could be a really good one too that no one talks about.
That?
Bloody Mary in the
mirror?
Yeah,
Bloody Mary definitely came first before Candyman, and I think they grew elements from that.
But I've never seen. Is there any Bloody Mary like movies that are like, oh my god?
There is.
Oh, there is.
There
okay.
It's direct.
Are they good?
DVD. Kind of.
No.
Basically, trying to figure out.
I don't believe you on it.
Kind of. Basically,
you always say when something's good, like.
Yeah, kind of. That like some of the kills were great, but the story overall, I didn't like it.
Gotcha.
No. Yeah, anything in a mirror, anything that you can like create in your house is always a great premise for, because you get people involved. Like you get people involved with like experimenting with it at home, and then you got them. Yeah, you relate, absolutely. You got them. That's it. So that's all we all try to do, like at any level, you know.
You got anything else to ask him? I mean, we're past the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, Raze. Like, I'm so excited. Like, I can't. We got to talk again. Like after I finish reading.
Yes,
like, after I finish everything that's out, I did back it. So I'll get caught up with everything, and
beautiful.
I did buy in for the physical copy of number 5 too. So
beautiful.
I can't wait to get it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would say wait till you have all 5 issues, because once you read all 5, you're not going to want to, from what I've heard from people who read it, you're not going to want to read one issue and put it down. We kind of end all these issues on these cliffhangers, so it's going to make you want to dive right back in. And unfortunately, it takes some time to get these issues. So when you see the end of issue 5, you're going to be like, I need issue 6.
Yeah.
But the good news is we should have issue 6 out by the end of this year, so we're excited for that.
Good. Just let us know. Just let us know, and we'll have you come back on the show.
Absolutely, for sure, 100%.
Or with any guest, like if you don't even have nothing to promote and you just want to talk about her and hang out, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do a Kickstarter for the end of this year. This has taken a huge toll on my creative team, so we need a little bit of a break before we go back. Yeah, absolutely. So but I will say,
and bring your co-host next time.
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. But yeah, I mean, the goal for Raze, create this awesome fan base. We want you guys to keep coming back to these issues because we make them for you guys, and we're not going to stop until we feel like we've beaten a dead horse. We're trying to do everything that's exciting. We're trying to make these issues, every issue you pick up, feel totally different from the last. And until we can't do that, that's probably when we'll end the series. But we're going to keep on going, and there is a story we got to tell, and I think it's going to excite a lot of people.
Awesome. Now, have you guys been to a lot of cons?
Wait, what's up?
Have you guys gone to a lot of cons to promote your stuff?
So this year, because Trey hopped onto this project, this year was focusing about getting timelines right because we've had a lot of issues with production. We're going, next year, we're going to be going to a crap load of cons. That's going to be our mission for next year, getting the name out as much as we possibly can. But, we're going to one more event in our hometown. And they're kind of having like an in-store kind of thing. It's not a con, but it's something that we can go to. And obviously we're going to have some exclusive merch there too, that I think is going to be really exciting for people. And it's on Halloween. So it's going to be super fun. It's going to be super fun.
Okay. So where's hometown?
So I'm from Worcester, Massachusetts. So if you're anywhere in the Massachusetts range, you can just search That's Entertainment in Worcester, and that's where we'll be on Halloween. And you can come say hi to us. We're going to be having so much cool merch there. I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
That's only maybe a couple hour drive for me. I'm up in Maine.
Oh yeah, you're not far, man.
No,
I'm down all the way in Florida.
I was through Worcester a couple of times. I used to work at Sports Authority, so I used to work down in some of the stores down that way every once in a while. But no, like we might have to get a coffee that night. Like I might have to come by and check you guys out.
Absolutely. We'll go to the event.
That's Halloween. I got time to plan. Sounds good, man. Let's do it. You never know who you're gonna run into, man. Like people right in their own backyard. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Go support this project, you guys. Yes, 5 days.
Exactly. The links are all in the description. Like, not just back up the Kickstarter, but follow them on Instagram and all their links. You know,
yep, they're everything.
They're doing really great stuff, and you know, just go out there, show your support, show your love, because comics are not easy.
Be entertained. At all. Be entertained. Yeah. Like we don't talk about like supporting Kevin Feige. We talk about going to see these damn Avengers movies. Like, go find these good stories. There's good stories everywhere, and indie comics right now is full of good stories in every genre. And in every story that you think has been told 1,000 times, there's 1,000 people like making comic books that far supersede a lot of the content in a lot of these places, man. Like Unique Zombies is a very tasty morsel you guys have created, man. Like if it catches the right eyes, you never know. So please keep up the good work, and like always take time to just be creative again. Like it's like the business stuff is exhausting. I'm learning. Like it's my biggest opportunity through this, you know, because you just want to create, but you got to do it. People got to know what you're creating so you can create more sometimes. Yes. So keep going, man. You guys got something special. No bullshit. It's awesome.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and we're gonna keep creating. You know, we are passionate about this project. We've been waiting over a decade to tell this to people. So just buckle in, because it is a crazy effing ride.
Can't wait.
We're gonna take you through it. So.
Well, thank you for coming on again. Else, no, I had enough, but man,
you had enough.
No, I'm talking about. I could talk more, but I can't really think of anything new to ask. You know, just again, just go and support it, because, like you said, there's no new story under the sun. But if you could add a way to like make it different just by a little tweak, it's gonna really draw people in, and
absolutely
they definitely know what they're doing.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the kind words. We really do.
Awesome, man. Well, be good. I can't.
Well, Mike, thank you
for
joining
figure out some logistics, man. We gotta get together.
Absolutely. You let me know. You know, we're only a few states away, so you say the word, I'm there.
All right, sounds good, man. Let's do it.
Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see y'all next week.
Take it easy. 81 next week.